Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. Hope you all had a great weekend and all that jazz, but here we are on Monday, and a lot of things have happened over the last few days. Some really exciting things, actually, especially in regards to that rumored PlayStation showcase. Sounds like they snagged a few big PlayStation 5 exclusives, so we'll talk about all that today, as well as that Nintendo supposedly, quote-unquote, fixed Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I actually don't like how that's worded at all because, I mean, we're talking about a game that hasn't really officially released yet, but nonetheless, some news did come out that should alleviate any remaining concerns that fans might have with Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. As always, though, do hit those buttons below, like, subscribe, and ring that bell. Helps the channel a ton, but with that said, we got a lot to get into here, so without a further ado, let's just go and jump right into it, starting off with Redfall. As many of you all might be aware of by this point, this game has been the internet's punching bag over the last week. It did not review all that well, and it clearly has some issues that needs to be cleaned up. But interestingly enough, despite the online negativity, it does actually appear that Redfall has had some success, or at least in terms of engagement. Now, there's a little bit more to this story, though. I don't think that this is the only important determining factor, which I'll kind of come back to here in a moment, but Redfall is currently tracking as the 12th most played game on Xbox, surpassing games like Overwatch 2 as an example, and then over on Game Pass, Redfall is the second most played game, only behind the forever popular Minecraft. So that's actually a pretty good start in terms of engagement. At the bare minimum, that means that a lot of people are trying Redfall, which is great to see. However, at the same time, this is not the only important factor in terms of engagement. I've seen a lot of celebration for this online, which, you know, it is great to see, but truth be told, there's other important data as well, including retention rate. The goal isn't necessarily only to get players to download said game, that's a great start, but there's also that goal to maintain some sort of hook that grabs players. So that's something to kind of monitor here as well, but I will say this much. If you do try Redfall yourself, stick with it for at least a few hours. This game does give you a bad first impression, but I do think that it gets better over time. I actually posted a full review on my thoughts about Redfall over the weekend, so if you're interested in that, I will drop a link below. Next up here, for you fans of Little Nightmares, you might be happy and maybe even a little bit surprised that it sounds like Little Nightmares 3 is on its way. Now, the reason this might be a little bit surprising is because the studio behind the horror platformer series, Tarsier Studios, was actually acquired by THQ Nordic back in 2019, and they did not retain the Little Nightmares IP. Bandai Namco, being the publisher, actually kept the series for themselves. So some fans might have thought that that was just kind of the end of the franchise, but that doesn't actually appear to be the case. Previously, Bandai Namco did note that they view this as a big, important franchise for them. They've had a lot of success with it. They've made merchandise from it. And the writing has just kind of been on the wall for a while. By all indication, it does appear that Bandai Namco has plans for Little Nightmares going forward. And well, now, that's all but been confirmed. In a new job listing posted, it went on to say, "You will join the production department within the team dedicated to our headline IP, Little Nightmares. You'll provide support in relation to the day-to-day production activities related to assigned projects, coordination milestone, review support, documentation, etc." And then one of the missions goes on to say, provides a qualitative support to the Little Nightmares production team by reviewing the game on multiple platforms, make comparative playthroughs, liaise with Q&A, etc. So based on the job description, which does very specifically mention game development, it does look like Bandai Namco is now internally developing a new Little Nightmares game. Now, we'll see if they can manage without Tarsier Studios. I mean, this again will come from a completely different team. They could try to just do the same thing as the first two games, or they could try to do something a little different with the IP. So there's still a lot of questions that kind of remains for this franchise going forward. But if you were hoping for more Little Nightmares, well, I'd say that this is at least pretty welcome news. Let's go talk about PlayStation, though, because we keep hearing about this rumored May showcase. This has been in a rumor mill for a couple months now. Multiple insiders by this point have claimed that this event is coming, and the hype just keeps going up, and up. A previous description for this showcase was that it's Sony's event to set up the second phase of the PlayStation 5's life cycle. So this could ultimately be a massive event that outlines their next couple of years. We could get some major first-party announcements here, some major third-party announcements, and I mean, we're talking about a big event if all this turns out to be true. It sounds like a must-watch showcase for all PlayStation fans, if anything else. And well, yeah, about that. So, two different things are happening here. First is that the often leaky Jeff Grubb got his grubby little paws on some more information, as he so often does, and he's now more confident than ever to peg that PlayStation showcase during the week of May 25th. Now, just a week or so back, he seemed a little bit more cautious about giving an exact date. He simply said that it was planned to happen before the Summer Game Fest. So to see him be a little bit more exact here, narrow things down just a little bit, I think that does show that he's more confident in what he's hearing behind the scenes. So as long as this proves true, because it is still a rumor at the end of the day, but if it does, you now have an expected week to look forward to. That, though, is not the big news here, because several insiders are also claiming that Konami will have a big presence at this PlayStation showcase. Now, they were previously planning to make an appearance at E3 before it got canceled, so I mean, we know for a fact that they do have something to show, and according to what we're hearing now, that something, or maybe even three somethings, are quite big that will have fans more than just a little bit excited. That's because a Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, Silent Hill, and a Castlevania revival might all make an appearance here. Now, this all kind of started with Nick Baker on Xbox Era, where he mentioned Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake might be at an upcoming PlayStation showcase and will have some sort of exclusivity attached to it. Now, that right there, that's the other huge part of this news, the PlayStation exclusivity. Though to be fair, if you've been following the channel for a while, I don't think that this was really all that surprising. This is not the first time that we've heard about this. We've probably been talking about this for well over a year by this point. I mean, the rumors go back possibly even multiple years. So there's been a lot of fire that this game might be coming and that it might be exclusive to PlayStation in some shape or form. In fact, Jez Corden over on Windows Central responded to this rumor saying that he had heard something similar as well. And then he also mentioned that he had heard Sony landed a deal with Konami for Silent Hill, which we already know is true, Metal Gear Solid, and then maybe even Castlevania as well. Now, nothing's confirmed as of yet. That's always important to keep in mind. But I will say, smoke is rising here. I mean, remain cautious until confirmed. That's always the best practice with any type of rumor, regardless of how much smoke there is. But if you're to ask me, I do believe that this is highly plausible. Now, I know not everybody likes the idea of third-party exclusives, and I completely understand that. And I've said this before, it makes business sense for these console makers. They're trying to entice players to their ecosystem, and exclusivity, especially when it comes to beloved games, is a great way to do just that. So I'm not going to crucify anybody for this practice. If anything, I'd say that other console makers might need to be more aggressive with this type of stuff. I also do kind of wonder if Konami might have needed this partnership to actually revive these games, so a little food for thought there. Now, with that said, if all of this turns out to be true, this is a massive partnership for PlayStation, and I don't think that that can be understated here. All three of these franchises are widely known, beloved, and critically acclaimed IP, especially Metal Gear Solid 3. A lot of people view this game as an all-time great. Now, I actually prefer Metal Gear Solid 4 myself, but hey, that's just me. I'm still a big Metal Gear fan in general, so I'm happy either way. But I think starting with 3 is actually a smart move when you kind of think about it. I know some people wonder why remake Metal Gear Solid 3 instead of Metal Gear Solid 1, and I think that that's really for two different reasons. Again, one is that Metal Gear Solid 3 is a bit of a fan favorite, so it's probably the most surefire hit. But also, if you kind of think about it here, Metal Gear Solid 3 is a prequel, so they could remake this game, and if it has success, and I mean, who are we kidding here? It will have success, so long as they do a good job with it, then they could go on to remake the first game onward, similar to how Capcom has treated the Resident Evil series. This game ultimately could put Konami on a path to success for really the next decade. Yeah, Konami might be back a little bit more officially, which is nice to see. Either way, for the time being, We'll just have to kind of keep an eye out for a more official confirmation by PlayStation regarding the much-rumored May showcase. Now, we also got some interesting news for Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah, actually, this is the week of Zelda. This game's almost out. Just 4 short days away, or 4 long days, depending on how you want to look at it. But funny enough, some news has made its way that Nintendo has quote-unquote fixed Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Now, I find that kind of amusing just because this game really isn't even officially out. So they really technically shouldn't have to quote-unquote fix anything. But, you know, people have had this game in their hands for about a week or so now. It leaked out early, it was being sold on reseller websites, and then the ROM itself made its way online. So now you have this whole issue of emulation and pirating before the game is even officially out. A full week or even more where people have had their hands on this game. But one thing about those early copies is that not everybody is necessarily pleased with its performance. The visuals aren't necessarily stunning, and the frame rate can and will dip. So some fans were kind of complaining about the state of a pre-release game, out of all things. And well, if you know how modern games work, some of those complaints might be a little bit premature. Again, you're not actually supposed to be playing this game right now in the first place. Well, about that, reportedly there's a day 1 patch, 1.1.0, that's about 370 megabytes. So that's actually a pretty decent sized update. You might be wondering what this includes, and apparently this includes AMD Fidelity FX Super Resolution. Now, if you don't know what that is and why this is so important, AMD Super Resolution essentially allows games to run at a lower resolution that then can get upscaled, which also improves, most importantly, its performance, the very thing that fans are currently concerned about. Now, Nintendo has used this technology in a few games prior, such as Switch Sports as an example, so we do know for a fact that Nintendo likes this technology. They've also kind of had some patents about AI upscaling in the past, so they're really looking into this even going forward, and well, based on these newfound reports, it sounds like they are going to implement AMD Fidelity FX Super Resolution into Tears of the Kingdom as well. Better yet, some players have already claimed that they have this update, and they say that it does very much help with the game's performance. So if this holds true, this is great news. It also means people who waited to play the full release will have a better overall experience than some of those who got the game under questionable circumstances. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though, where I asked you all, if the rumors are true, which Konami revival are you most looking forward to? And the results here took me by a complete surprise because, interestingly enough, Castlevania won with 35% of the votes, whereas Metal Gear Solid 3 took second place with 30%, and then 25% voted for Silent Hill. Now, all things considered here, all 3 nominees got a lot of votes, which, I mean, that does go to show you that each has a large fandom. Again, if Sony really did get all 3 of these games exclusively, whether they be timed or full, congrats to them because they got a really big partnership. But all in all, I think with Castlevania, my thing with this franchise is that there's 2 very different games. You have the 3D iterations, and then you have 2D. Now, for myself, I do prefer the 2D games just because I feel like their quality has been more consistent. But with that said, at the same time, I would like to see a big AAA 3D iteration just kind of come out and knock it out of the park. The series has always had great atmosphere, and I think that it does have a lot of potential with that AAA treatment. All things considered, though, Konami, just give us both. Give us a 2D game and a 3D game, similar to what Nintendo was doing with the Metroid franchise. That's what we want here. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode. But if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.